Okay, I think we'll get started. So we've been doing these electrical circuits, and hopefully you've been practicing that. And we do that because we can model neural systems with electric circuits in what are called equivalent circuits. And so let's just start with the simplest case, and we'll work through some more complicated cases as we go through. So let's imagine we have a simple potassium leak channel. So this is not a fancy voltage gated channel or something that changes when voltage is there, but it's just a constant conductivity. So it acts like a simple resistor or conductor, and it just leaks potassium through constantly. And then we have an active transport of that of the potassium back. And we know that this is functioning physiologically in a equivalent circuit as a battery, and then this is functioning as a conductor. So the simplest circuit for this would be a battery that is retaining the voltage at the rest potential or the rest voltage across this membrane, whatever that may be, and the conductivity of the leak channel. So we have this battery and the resistor, or battery and conductor. And then we have, via Ohm's law, the current that's flowing around this equivalent circuit. Okay, so that's the simplest circuit. It obeys Ohm's law. Well, now let's do something to this circuit. So let's say we're doing an experiment and we introduce a voltage jump on this, or maybe an action potential comes along and it raises the voltage or something like that. So let's look at a voltage jump where now all of a sudden the membrane voltage or membrane potential is not equal to the rest potential. Well, we know that this acts as a capacitor, and as a capacitor it's storing charge, and it's doing so based on the rest voltage. So if that changes, then that capacitor wants to change the amount of charge carried across this, or charge held across this. And so any change in voltage, this capacitor piece will respond. So while this is sort of a steady state thing, this is what we call a transient behavior. Now we have to then include the capacitor in the circuit, and from electronics, the current flowing through this capacitor transiently is equal to, we're not actually passing through, we're not passing ions through, but the adjustments of the ions, if more come in and more come out, or more come out and more come in, then because of the voltage change, that's equivalent to a current flowing. So we're not actually passing ions through the membrane or across the capacitor, we're not passing electrons across the capacitor, but if an electron comes here and then leaves here, it's equivalent to having done so. So we can talk about a current through the capacitor in a sense. Now this will just be a function of time, and it's going to be proportional to the rate of change of that voltage. So we've talked about the derivative in the past. So the current is proportional to the derivative of the difference in the voltage from its rest voltage. Now, the leak channel just behaves via Ohm's law. So the leak current is that. But the total current, we really have to consider, due to the voltage jump, we have to consider the sort of a leak. What is the leak above and beyond the rest leak? So if we take leak prime, then what that means is that we're taking the leak current at the particular voltage it's at minus the current when it's at its rest. Okay, because there's always this background current that's moving through, and we're looking at what does it do to the voltage jump. So then we can write our differential equation. IC is this. This is our IC, and this is our I leak prime. And so where is that coming from? Well, that's coming from this and this. And so if we take this minus this, we can pull out the G, and we have this. And so notice that everything depends here on the voltage difference. So what really matters is that change in voltage when we get that, to get that capacitive response. It's responding to a change in voltage. And so we can succinctly write this as a delta V, a difference in V. That means whatever the voltage is now minus what it is at rest. And I'm going to bring this over to the other side. See, this is all equal to 0, so I'm going to bring this over, and we get that. And now let's look at this differential equation. I can bring this C over here, and we're proportional to ourself. And we did this in our calculus in a nutshell as the key differential equation. So we can do separation of variables, get the V by itself, get everything else over here on the T side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to integrate this up, or take the antiderivative. I guess I don't need to do this. So this just indicates do this to the whole equation here. And we're going to end up getting the antiderivative of 1 over x here. See, this is playing the role of x, is just log of x plus a constant, but we know we can pull that over to the other side because we're getting a constant over here as well. The antiderivative of just a constant here, because the leak current is, or the leak conductance is constant, and the capacitance is constant. So this is just a constant. So we just get T plus a constant, and the minus sign comes along for the ride. Okay, now we need to unlog this, right? So we bring in E and go across this whole equation, and we get this. This just undoes the log. And then we're going to get E to this, and that's really like E to the A plus B, which we can use property of log, or property of exponents, and write it like that. So then I'm going to get this plus E to the C. Well, I'm just going to call that, just going to define it to be delta V naught. Because if I stick in a 0 here, that goes to 1, and that gives us our initial voltage jump. So boom, the voltage jumps. That is that initial voltage jump. And then that voltage changes, and it does so as a decaying exponential. And so the difference decays to 0, and then the membrane voltage itself, because this is membrane minus rest, just decays to rest. And so we see this as the first now time in neuroscience that we have used that special differential equation we talked about. The notes carry some additional calculus differential equations for for this one, but I'm just going to give you kind of the results here. So another type of experiment that we can do is a current injection, where we have a constant current source and we turn it on in some neuro experiment. And what happens here is we have the same side of this differential equation, the voltage jump, but now it's driven on this side. See, it was 0 over here. Now it's driven by that current injection. So we don't have an initial voltage jump, but we have something driving that, which is going to change the delta V here. This is not equal to 0. So that is going to rise, and it's actually going to rise exponentially. So this is going to be something like 1 minus E to the minus, I think it might be G leak over C T. So that's rises exponentially and then tapers off. So that's that. Then if we were to turn this off, we effectively have a voltage jump, because we no longer have this driving force. Our voltage is away from the rest, and so this back half is just what we calculated before. Now, all of this is with a leak channel, which is good. We want to understand the leak channel, but the interesting channels in neuroscience are the voltage-gated channels and the ligand-gated channels. So let's imagine we have a voltage-gated channel, or a ligand-gated channel, I guess, doesn't matter. And we're going to add that now to our circuit. So maybe this is sodium. And maybe I should have it go in the other direction. So it's a sodium channel that turns on at some time, and then, or at some voltage, and then turns off at another voltage. So if we're at the rest voltage, it's off. If we hit a voltage that's above rest, it turns on. So let's write the equivalent circuit for that. This is a gated circuit. And let's write this equation now. So we have this piece, and now we add another gate piece, but the gate is not constant. So it's not like the leak channel. Now, yes, it's a function of the voltage, and we have to determine when that turns on. But what we're looking at here is, this is an equation with time. So what we want to know is, what is the gate's behavior with time? And one type, particularly the sodium gated channel, is one that will open up, but then it will close again at a high voltage. So imagine the voltage spiking, going above threshold. The sodium channel opens up, and then sometime later it closes. That's the behavior of the sodium channel. So what we're looking at here is, we're saying the gate conductance has this function here. So this is sort of a model function for that. And let's look at this. At time equals 0, this is 0. Right? But also at time equal infinity, or very large, we have this getting very big, but exponentials always beat polynomials. You might remember that from high school. So if we're multiplying a polynomial, here in case just t to the first power, times this decaying exponential, the decaying exponential will win. So this will initially rise, and then it'll fall again. So that's modeling the opening of this sodium channel, and then the reclosing again. So that's depicted over here in this picture. And then if we solve this differential equation, it's actually now a much more difficult differential equation. We can numerically solve it on a computer, and we get a behavior that looks like this. And this is going to be a behavior we're going to really understand about this sodium channel. And so I'll talk about the sodium channel and the potassium channel here now. I'm going to erase the board, put those up and talk about those and see how they work together. Okay, so let's talk a little more about the sodium and potassium channels. We're going to spend a lot of time on this. So this is sort of a first pass through. We will be going through a lot of the detail of the protein structure for these channels and looking at them very closely. But just now, in terms of our circuit dynamics, and in particularly the conductance dynamics, let's consider these channels. So they're both voltage gated, and they are both they both have some threshold voltage above which they open up and below which they close. And by open and close, what we mean is the configuration of the channel, due to the quaternary structure of the protein. These are big proteins, and they form this channel. They're in a closed configuration, right? And we're going to talk about just how that happens. Now, if the voltage rises above threshold, in both cases, these will now open. For the sodium channel, this happens very fast. And for the potassium channel, this happens very slowly, relatively slowly compared to the sodium channel. Now, the potassium channel has this extra blob of protein, or the sodium channel, sorry, has this blob of protein in close proximity to the bottom side of this channel. So this is outside the cell, this is inside the cell. And again, we'll look much more closely at this. And when the voltage is below the threshold, it is not wanting to stick in here. This configuration doesn't like that ball stuck in there. So it's just randomly moving around. Now when this opens, this actually likes to stick. So this is randomly moving around, but when it comes up and finds this opening, it can stick pretty well. And so we have an open channel, but it's blocked. And this happens fast, but not as fast as the opening. So what we see here for the dynamics is that the channel conductance will go way up. Right here, the channel conductance is high. Here it's small, now it's high. Now, if we sustain being above threshold, if we hold the voltage above threshold, then this will find that bottom part of that pore and block it. And although it's in the open configuration, ions can't flow through, and our conductance comes back down. Conversely, at least under normal physiological conditions, we've gone above threshold, we have opened, and we don't have this closing structure for potassium. It opens much more slowly, and in fact, I use this squiggle line here in that there's stages of opening, so it has this or kind of like closed but ready to open, closed but ready to open, and then finally open. So it has this kind of induction period, and then it takes off. And so we can see, just looking at the time, this is time here, the sodium channels come on open, potassium channels open second. Now we haven't learned yet about what that all means, but it is this behavior that's actually going to lead to the action potential. So while this is coming out of this idea of equivalent circuits and what is these voltage gated channels time dynamics look like, these will be the heart and soul of the action potential, which is how information is transmitted down the axon. All right, so that is equivalent circuits. Keep practicing your electronics. Now start to connect it to the physiology. And you don't need to know a ton about the voltage-gated channels, but what you do want to know now is this time dynamic. So keep telling yourself the story of that.